Welcome back, episode 31 to Hell with the Podcast. I am Tim, here with my co-host Daryl, and we are going to be picking back up. We had a couple of weeks off. Well, we didn't have a couple of weeks off, but we had a week off where we were doing some traveling, and then last week we focused on the new album by Michael Sweet, The Master Plan. So if you go back 3 episodes, we did the controversy part 1. So we're going to talk more about the controversy that has surrounded the band Stryper, basically since their inception of Stryper and the Yellow and Black Attack. But before we dive in and jump back into that, I want to welcome back our co-host Daryl. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, man. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. We're fortunate enough to go to see the Masters this week, and it's a great date night if you have the ability to do so, because they steal your phones and you just have to deal with people. So there's no digital anything. So yeah, it's been a cool weekend, and yeah, dude, I'm always excited to do this. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that part up about it, but that they steal your cell phones, because that was one of the things. Because I took my son for the first time, my oldest son, who's 29. I took him. This was the first time he had been to the Masters, and we were sitting there on the 18th tee box. And one of the things that he mentioned to we were just talking, and nobody was at the 18th tee box at the time, but he was just saying, you know what's nice? He goes, it's to look around and see everybody engaged with what's going on around them and not looking at their phones, not holding it up and recording every aspect of everything that's walking by. The thing is, it's like when I go to a concert,
yes.
I may take out my phone and take a few pictures. I may record a snippet of a song, but then that's it. I'm done, because I want to enjoy the concert versus just, okay, wait, it's over? I was recording the whole thing.
You're not watching those videos after the concert. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
so
You're
yeah,
not.
I'm totally with you. I might take a couple photos, but I mean, I'm re I I'm really glad that when I go to the Masters, I mean, I've been in the Masters for like this is my 21st Masters, which is insane. But yeah, you can't take your phone in, so you just have to be engaged with what's going on around you, and it's, you know, people don't have I feel like people don't, especially younger people, don't have that skill anymore. It's like, okay, I don't have my phone. I'm not recording. I hate going to concerts when everybody's recording everything. So it's really cool to just like, all right, you don't have a choice. Leave your phone in the car because you can't bring it in. Period. So it's a nice, nice parameter to have. So
Yeah, because I mean, you're just engaged with what's going on around you. You can enjoy every moment. And I don't think a lot of people today realize, because especially the younger generation, because they've only grown up with a phone in their hand and they feel like they got to capture everything because that's what's going to create the memory. And but to your point, when you record these videos, how often do you go back and watch them?
you don't.
I mean, the only time, if I have a video that I recorded in the past, the only time that I see it is if it pops up in a memory. I'm not actively sitting there going, let me go back and watch this recording of this concert I went to 10 years ago.
Yeah, if it pops up, I will like if there's a Prince concert moment that I recorded and it pops up, I'll go watch it, but I mean, it's yeah, it's like you say, I'm not gonna seek it out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, and I didn't even notice this. I didn't say this. I have not redone my room. If you're watching on YouTube, I haven't redone anything. I am actually traveling this week, and because of our weekends, we weren't able to sync up this weekend and record like we normally do. So I said, "Hey, we will do it when I'm in the hotel room." So no, this is not my background, my picture. This is my hotel's background picture.
It's better than your background at your house.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The blank walls, I know.
Yeah, the
I got
gray
the
I mean,
pictures there. I just got to
you
find the
got
right
yellow
frames.
walls, you got yellow walls and black and white pictures. I mean, that
Okay.
looks
Hey, it's Stryperish, man.
okay, fair alright, fair enough. Got me.
This these walls behind us, yellow and black. I like it.
More Stryper than your home office where we do the Stryper podcast.
I know. I know. Well, it's like I ended up ordering all those pictures and it's finding the right frames. And
It's
I
a
tell
pain in
you
the
what,
butt.
man, frames are not cheap.
Well, and yeah, they're a pain in the butt and they're not cheap. Yes, you were not wrong.
That's the biggest problem. Like, yeah, I can put all the pictures up, but that'll cost me $300 or $400 just to put the pictures up. I don't want to do that. I got better
Bro,
things.
uh, alright, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just looking behind me.
I know. Well, you got 3 framed, and
Well, that's the
that's what
ones
I need to do.
there's
I
the
just
ones you can see.
Yeah. I just need to at least start framing some, maybe not all at once, but some. So my
Yeah,
room
it's
has
a
some
process.
kind of character.
It's a process. I mean, cause yeah, I didn't do them all at once, but yeah, it's a process. Anyways.
Yeah. So going over to the Stryper news desk this week, it's kind of interesting. There's not a whole lot that I saw that was going on except stuff that's happening tour wise. This week, if you follow them on Facebook, this week they are on the Monsters of Rock cruise. I've seen them posting a couple of things from that, and of course, you can tell I'm not there. Daryl's not there. Maybe one day, but there's another one that I found. I thought it was kind of cool that they were invited to be on it because they were such a big moment, and we've talked about this before, a big moment of the 1980s MTV dial up. Well, next year, there's always this Ace cruise that happens in February. And this Ace cruise is not a rock cruise. I mean, you could have Belinda Carlisle there. You could have a whole bunch of different people from the 80s. Well, next year on the 80s cruise, Stryper's actually going to be going to that one. And the thing that's kind of cool about that is that this is hosted by the MTV VJs, Mark Goodman, Alan Hunter,
Jeannie
Downtown Julie
Blackwood.
Brown. She Downtown Julie Brown she came more in the 90s, late 80s, mostly through the 90s when they used to have that crazy dance show. But the lineup, I mean, you can see it's kind of all over the place. I mean, this is who is on the list for the 80s cruise so far next year. It's Stryper, of course, the Romantics, DJ Jazzy Jeff, DMC, Shaka Khan, Peter Hook and the Light, Bob Geldof and the Boomtown Rats,
Wow. Okay.
Nick Hayward of Haircut 100. I'm not familiar with that.
If I played you the song, you would know it. I can't remember what the song title was, but you would know it.
Okay. Slim Jim Phantom from the Stray Cats, the Plimsolls, Strange Love, a couple of ones that I would be interested in seeing: Night Ranger, Loverboy, John Waite, Bullet Boys. So that's who's on this list so far. So I thought it was kind of cool that they got invited to this one because this is more of, I've always kind of looked at it like it's not sponsored by MTV or anything like that. It's just an 80s cruise where the former MTV VJs are the host of it. And for them to for them to be a part of it this upcoming year, I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a crazy lineup, but yeah, I mean, I don't know who's financing the whole thing, but yeah, the fact that they could bring the MTV guys back, because they're all over Sirius. They all like are, they have MTV type channels on Sirius, and those guys are hosting. But the fact that they would bring, you just ran down that list. Stryper's like the only like metal band, on the list that you just read off. Interesting. I'd be interested to see how that whole thing kind of came together.
Yeah, it's so when I saw it, because I mean I've seen it before, and it's always tended to lean more from the lineups that I've seen. It kind of always tended to lean more towards the pop and maybe
Right.
some rock, but not to the extreme of
Right.
having a band like Stryper. And of course, you and I know how Stryper sounds today. And I just wonder if they went out there. And what I mean by that is what they've released over the past 20 years versus what they released primarily from the 80s, which I could imagine, just guessing and assuming, that with an 80s cruise that they'll probably be more focused on an 80s set list than incorporating some of their new stuff, but I could be wrong on that. It could be like, "Hey, man, we can still kick butt."
I mean, I would think predominantly they would have the '80s stuff, the stuff from, up until To Hell with the Devil or through the MTV kind of stuff. But, if they wanted to throw a couple of the newer songs in there, I mean, I wouldn't hate it. And I mean, heck, if you want to throw Yahweh in there, it's not going to be a bad thing. I mean, you know, so I I will be doing some research to see what the set lists are going
Yeah,
on with.
that one would definitely be interesting. And then the other thing too is last time, was it last? Yeah, it was last time because we were talking about the master plan last week. And one of the things is, when I opened up the vinyl cover and it read a thanks to, and Michael was talking about 40 albums. And then we were like, gosh, how many songs is that and everything? I haven't taken the time over the past week to go do any research on that because I had said something like, I wonder how many songs would it be?
Oh, good grief!
Let me move this out of the way here so I can read this. One of our listeners, Soldiers 8, he came up and he said, I did a count of all the songs Michael Sweet wrote in whole or in part, not counting records or covers. Covers, not whatever I just said, including Stryper solo, Sweet and Lynch, Some Bomb, Iconic, and Soul Driver. The number I came up with was around 308 songs, which is over 30 albums. Now, if you count albums like To Hell with the Amps, Soldiers Live, Him, Touch, The Covering, Second Coming, which had covers and re-records, and other albums that had a cover on them where work and time went into arranging, playing, recording, and producing them, that number is much higher.
Wow.
I know. First of all, Soldier 7778, thank you for giving
Thank
us that
you.
information because I haven't had the time to dig into it and do the count like I wanted to, but still, 108 songs.
That's insane. I mean, but if we sit here and think about it, it's not surprising.
And that's what's been released.
Right. But you get the re-records and all the re-releases and all that kind of stuff. So um I mean, I'm really thank you so much for doing the math. But yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it is quite a lot. And, you think about it, what other music, I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here, but what other musicians from that time frame have that type of catalog with that many original songs and that many original albums? You know, whether it be with a group like the
Aerosmith.
original band like Stryper or their solo stuff, or, maybe they did a collaboration with somebody. you know, I'm trying to think because I mean, you look at a band like we talk about them quite a bit on here. You look at a band like Extreme. What if they've? I mean, they came out with their first album in the late '80s, and their last album was their sixth. So it's sixth or seventh album. So
Van Halen, Aerosmith, that kind of it's on that kind of that's on that kind of level. Sorry for you audio only, but I'm doing a lot of air quotes, but yeah, you'd have to go back to like, because I mean, you can't even talk about a band like Boston that has that many songs.
no, you can't. Well, that's because it would take because we think Michael Sweet's a perfectionist, because I mean, Tom Schultz is if you look it up in the dictionary, musical perfectionist, it's his picture there in the diction. And that's why it took 9 years to come out with the third album.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong at all. That's a perfect point. But
And I'm
yeah,
not
I mean,
trying to downplay Tom Schultz or make fun of him, but
no, but some dudes are. I mean, Mike is a perfectionist, and so was Tom Schultz. So for better or for worse. I mean,
yeah, but still, I mean, but it just gives you it just makes me think, we've got this catalog to, if Stryper retires or when they retire eventually, they're not performing anymore for, whenever that day comes, we have a great, incredible catalog of music that spans 40 years from Michael Sweet, whether it be in Stryper, whether it be a solo stuff, whether it be side projects outside of Stryper. There is a lot of music that we will be able to enjoy for a very long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's so many records and, I know you and I talk about the old school versus the new school, but it's still a ton of music and and none of it's, I mean, okay, well, I won't say none of it's bad, but it's still it fits in the mold of why we like Stryper. And there's so many songs, and I mean, it's freaking impressive, man. I just, I know we kind of sit here and we just gush about Stryper because that's our podcast, but I mean, also it's also a thing where I was like, well, maybe more people should, you know, get on the train and listen, especially my musician friends. I'm always trying to push it towards them because they're Van Halen fans and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, "Well, all right, cool. Go listen to this." And I'm on the train always trying to get people to listen to this band, and it's like they were a hair band and they hadn't released anything in 20 years, and they released so many records, and so it's it's fun to kind of chop it up with some of my guitar friends and that kind of stuff. But yeah, they have such a catalog. It's crazy, but they get ignored.
I know, and that's one of the reasons why we originally started talking about doing this particular podcast. If in case you're a new listener, is because wow, why would you do one on Stryper? Like you just said, a lot of people only think about them from having those albums from the 80s, the yellow, the 5 albums plus the Can't Stop the Rock collection. They have missed the past 20 years of what this band has put out. And sometimes I feel like Eddie Trunk when there was that one time when that caller called in and asked about Michael Sweet, and he was like, what the I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, what the heck are you talking about? What rock have you been under? And that's kind of like with the day and age we live in, with the internet, all you have to do is, I wonder whatever happened to so and so. You don't have to wait for the VH1 little segment that came out that says whatever happened to, and you get to watch it and it, whatever it says, you can actually go online and say, oh, wait, these guys have still been putting, and guess what? You don't even have to buy the albums. If you've got Spotify, just go listen to them.
Yeah.
Or if you got Apple or if you got Amazon, you don't have to go buy them. Just put them in your playlist. Listen to them.
Well, I mean, once the MTV thing kind of died off, everybody kind of stopped paying attention. I think that's my opinion. I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe it's because I'm still stuck in the 80s too much. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's where you live musically a lot of the time, but I still search out new stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's where you live, and I can't remember who said it, but your musical taste in high school is where you're going to be in your 40s.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say amen to that because that's exactly where I have been stuck for a long time. I try to listen to new stuff and I'm just like, I don't get it.
There's
I mean,
stuff out.
some stuff I do like that's new.
I've been finding that I've been liking more new hip hop than I would expect. But yeah, I mean, I still search out new stuff, but I think more of my likes are towards hip hop more than, I mean, I know where my metal is. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know. My kids sometimes will send me this stuff and it's like, all right, well, you got to stay on top of what your children are listening to.
Well, that's the one thing. I know my middle son listens to the same stuff I do. So, I mean, it's I think he listens to it more than I do now.
Well, hey, that's the
And he's
ain't that
22.
ain't
For if you
nothing
want to know,
wrong.
my middle son's 22. So he's he's listening to the 80s stuff more than I do. Or I should say the 80s hair bands.
Yeah, I'm definitely listening to more hip hop just because my daughters are sending me more stuff, which, hey, I don't hate it. Sometimes I hate it, but most of the time it's fun.
But are you ready to get back into part 2 of the
All
controversy?
right. Yes. Let's go.
All right. So last time we talked about several things. We talked about the secular world versus the Christian world, why the two were, both sides of the world were coming against this ban. We spent a lot of time focusing on that. We didn't even really, well, it was probably the way we talked a little bit about the yellow and black. And it focused around the way the message, the Christians didn't like the way the message was being presented. You can't have people with hair, hair that long and
Electric
earrings.
guitars.
And, but if
Well,
you really,
they laid it out in the first song.
I
I
know,
mean, it's like, this is what we're doing. So
you
anyway,
can't
go ahead.
argue
I'm
with
sorry.
it. But I mean, at the same time, though, I got to tell you this real quick because I almost did it right here. So yesterday, I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you before. Not necessarily, but sometimes when you just get this like little massive scratchiness in your throat and the only way to get it out is to cough. Well, you know what it was like when that happened to me yesterday and there was somebody on the 18th tee getting ready to tee off. I'm sitting there digging for my water because I was like, can't, I'm sitting there about to cry because it is just so massively just building up. Fortunately, I found my water and downed my water quick enough. And then they teed and I went, and so, I mean, so fortunately I was able to control it till after he teed off. So I just would have felt so bad.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Because you got to understand, there was one person who was like, they were over at the 17th. They were a good distance behind me. And somebody sneezed as he was in the backswing, as somebody else was in the backswing and then came down and somebody went, couldn't have timed that sneeze more better. And I'm
Dang.
like thinking, and he was a good distance off. And here I was like right there next to him trying to control this massive cough that's about to come on me. So I'm glad it didn't happen. No, I'm glad it
Oh
didn't
my
happen, but
gosh,
that would have
that's
been bad.
awesome.
But I was sitting there digging for my water, trying to find one as quickly as I could to drink it.
I mean, if you couldn't find more pollen at Augusta National in April, so you're fine.
But like what you were saying though, the first song described it, but you got to go back to the origins of the band. I mean, this band, they were on the Hollywood scene, they were on the Hollywood Strip, they were doing all the local clubs at that time. They were singing, they were Rock's Regime. They were singing about, you know, your normal rock and roll stuff. Then they rededicate their lives to Christ. They decide their band is going to be speaking about God, about Jesus, about everything like that. And then and they said, but we're going to do it the way we know how to do it. This is who we are. We're going to do it this way. And then they got attacked from both sides of the aisle. They got attacked by the Christians. They got attacked by the non-Christians. The Christians were saying you can't be talking about Jesus with that kind of look and sound. And you had the non-Christians over there going, it's just a gimmick. The yellow and black is goofy or whatever they wanted to say. So then you had people like us and our listeners who were like, I love it. I love the sound. I love the message. I love what they're doing. But that's what we really focused on in that first one. But then there was also something else happening in the 80s, and we touched briefly on it last time. And I always forget the acronym. Is it the PMRC?
Mercy.
Yeah. And so you had a lot of people coming out at that point. Tipper Gore,
D. Snyder
D.
was the
Snyder was the one leading the effort about lyrical content because you had and it's really ironic because it was with the PMRC it was in my opinion and I know you probably studied it a little bit more but it was really geared towards the because for those that are too young or to know this stuff there were lawsuits or a lawsuit against Ozzy Osbourne about a young male who took his life and they were talking about it was because of this song, and then there were
Suicide
some
Slate.
other instances like that. So that's where the PMRC came in, and we're saying we got to do better, we got to control the lyrical content, and here comes Stryper with the lyrical content that they have, and it's still being attacked.
No, it the whole thing was, in my opinion, it was freaking stupid because, hey, put a sticker on something and say it's obscene, but you could still buy it. So if you're like a 16-year-old, it's like you guys are idiots. I mean, I think Motley girl, I think it was the girls' record. So they put a sticker on that one. That thing went like gangbusters sales wise. So the whole freaking thing was stupid.
Well,
I
it
mean,
goes.
God,
I was just gonna say it's kind of like the thing. Why do they? It's like, okay, this is a great movie, but if we put a PG label on it, the young kids, young adults are not going to want to go see it because they're going to think it's too kid friendly. But if we throw an R rating movie on it, let's throw a couple of F bombs on it and give it an R rating, and then all of a sudden we got to go see that. Then it becomes cool. Kind of the same thing with the sticker. All of a sudden that sticker, oh,
oh
they're saying something my parents don't, older people think I shouldn't be hearing.
yeah, the sticker was the freaking thing, dude. Because I mean, I remember hearing, I think it might have been a Nikki Sixx interview or something, but yeah, he's like, all right, throw an obscenity label on our records, and because that boosted their sales so much, and the PMRC was like, they they put these stupid stickers on the records, and okay, cool, every sales metric went up.
Well, no, because it was different. Well, it all depends because it wasn't like because there were some times when I was trying to go to a movie. I'll never forget this one example. I wanted to go see Friday the 13th, like part 6 or something like that. And of course, all of those movies were rated R. I go with my friend Mark and a guy who's older than us. His name is Dale. It's the three of us going. So I get up to the window and I'm probably 14, 15 at the time. I can't yeah, I wasn't old enough to drive. Yeah, I was 14. I was 14 years old. And so we get up to the counter, and this was probably the only time I was ever questioned about seeing an R-rated movie, and I was below 17 because you got to be 17, can't be admitted without parents. And so I ended up. So what happened was we walked up to the line. There was this lady. She probably was 50 years old because I remember she had white hair and she was, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but she was probably the oldest ticket taker I had ever seen in my life at that time. And she asked me, she goes, "How old are you?" And Dale steps in. And if you knew my friend Dale, I mean, he had blonde hair, it was down to here. He's this big guy. I mean, just this big, stalky guy. And he goes, "That's my brother. He's coming in with me." And Dale and I weren't related at all. And then she kind of looks at him, looks at me, looks at him again, and goes, "Okay." Because I mean, it's like, what proof do you have? And back to your point, you put the stickers on them. They weren't asking you for your age. I mean, the only time I ever really saw anything about those stickers was this. They said one person said, "You realize what the sticker means?" I was like, "Yes."
Why
It
I'm
was like,
freaking
okay.
buying it. I mean,
And so, like you said, sometimes you put those stickers on. If you make controversy around things like that, it makes kids want to go check it out and say, "What's
absolutely.
the controversy about?"
I mean, every time Prince released a record, there was controversy. I mean, he released a record that had that same title. So anytime that you put something like that on the cover for a teenager, it's like, oh well, why is this controversial? Let's find out.
Yeah, exactly. And so I actually did a paper in high school on the whole PMRC.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did it. And it was just more about that whole thing. And I kind of landed on the spot. It's just like, with free speech, you can't take the free speech of the artist away, but, throw the sticker on there. So if that way, if somebody wants to know about it, or I said, treat it like a movie if you have to.
Yeah, it's like a rated R record. I mean, but still, if you're gonna throw that stuff on music, I think for teenagers, just like it's kind of ridiculous because it's like this is something we're probably not supposed to listen to, so let's go listen to it.
Because I mean, I almost sometimes think, especially in the crowd that I ran with, and I'm not saying this from a prejudice type thing or anything like that, but what was that band that they were a hip hop and they were, I mean, the only word that comes to my mind is that they were raunchy. I cannot remember their
Beastie
name. They were
Boys,
like, no, not the Beastie Boys.
uh, the Miami band. Luke was the guy. Oh my goodness, wow! I'm gonna get I'm gonna get it a lot of ish from my people on this.
Two Live Crew.
Two Live Crew. There you go.
That's
Perfect.
who I was thinking about. Sorry. Two Live Crew. I mean, if you listen to this podcast,
That was some raunchy. I mean, yeah.
you
Nobody
know,
should. That was raunchy.
yeah. So with me, if you listen to this podcast, I'm not listening. I don't listen to hip hop. It's never been my flavor of music. It's just nothing I've ever really dove into. But there were so many people that I knew that had never listened to hip hop before that were buying that record because of what they heard about it and what they knew what was going to be on it.
No, man. I mean, that was the whole thing, and there was that was like a that I think that entered in a whole new like kind of wave of hip hop because we went from like old school like Eric B and Rakim and Run DMC and because I love that kind of stuff. But then we went into the I had to put a label on it. It was like, Miami disco kind of but the lyrics were just, oh my word.
I know. I know.
I mean, they were good at what they did, but I was not a huge fan. But no, man, it's, do what you do. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of that era of hip hop. But I really do like hip hop a lot, but just not right there.
I don't know. For me, and people might be like, well, why don't you like hip hop? For me, it's my love of guitar and having a guitar in a song. For me, if the song doesn't have a guitar in it, the likelihood of me wanting to listen to it consistently, it's just not there. I've just always have loved the guitar, and I've always loved what they can do, what people can do with the guitar, and that's why I'm sorry, my taste never really evolved beyond that. I mean, in some cases they have, but that's just why I never really liked hip hop because it was missing the guitar. Now, Walk This Way by Rum DMC with Aerosmith, that's a completely different scenario because you had the guitar with that song. But for me, it's just like if it doesn't have the guitar, I never really give it a chance.
Well, for me, I mean, again, I'm a drummer, so I'm looking at the beat and doing all that stuff. And, you know, you bring up a great one with Aerosmith and Run DMC. That's amazing. But I mean, I was not a huge fan of the Miami stuff, and it was kind of gross. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably a bigger hip hop fan than you are. But yeah, I just like it because the beats are there, and hey, you know, I'm a drummer, so I'd listen to that kind of stuff, and if it's interesting, and I mean, there's some dudes on the internet where they're just cross mixing metal and old school hip hop, and I'm just like, man, I love this, and I'm not usually a big fan of DJs, but some of these dudes that are mixing up some songs, I'm like, all right, you got my attention. So I mean, some of these guys that are like in the freaking 20,000 seat arenas that are just doing garbage, but there's some independent dudes that are doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah. And one of the things, and I can understand too, with you being the drummer and having the beat, because I mean, I remember sitting in class in school, and I mean, that's what was always going on was the beat, whatever it was. And I could definitely see that. But for me, it just wasn't my flavor, wasn't my style.
No,
But to get back to the topic, we started talking about hip hop and our love of stuff, different things and why. But I know you had some quotes that you pulled up. And I know we did an entire episode of this, but one of the biggest controversies, in my opinion, that not only ranged from the Christian world and the non Christian world, but it became with their fans was the Against the Law album.
yes.
And when that came out,
Yeah, I mean, that's where it kinda I won't say it went sideways, but the more I went into this, it wasn't just the albums, like, "Alright, we're changing," "we're changing our not our message, but we're changing our our image," and all that kinda stuff. There was a lot of stuff going on within the band, even because I was looking up some other stuff, and Um, I was about to bail during that period, and it's just like, man, there was so much. You talk about controversy, with the labels and the albums and all that kind of stuff, but there was a lot of stuff going on within.
especially when
Some of the stuff that I read from Mike was, he's like, we didn't lose faith. We just wanted to express it differently, and we lost a bunch of fans because of Against the Law.
yeah, because I mean, one of the things that he did, and I'm reading this offline, it said online, sorry, not offline. I'll be like Vince Vaughn from the internship on the line, on the line. I found this on the line. In some sense, it was a no God album. We were tired of Christians coming up to us and trying to destroy us through all the confusion they were spreading. The album and specifically the title track were directed towards them. And I remember when this album came out, and I've got, and I might say this a little bit differently than I did when we talked about Against the Law album. This was, they didn't lose me as a fan on this album. I thought that the album really rocked. I thought musically, it was to me, musically, it was probably their best album, musically, out of the first 5. I know some of it stepped away a little bit from what a typical Stryper sound. I mean, there was the one song on there that had a resemblance to a Van Halen song, but it was just kind of they stepped away from their normal sound in a sense with what they were doing with what they were doing musically. Lyrically, we all know that there was no specific mention of God. There wasn't a song on there like More Than a Man, but you still saw hints of what their faith was in some of the songs. With All for One, there was also Two Bodies, One Mind, One Soul. So their faith was still coming through. It was coming through in a little bit of a different way. It just wasn't as straightforward. And I think maybe too, what confused some people was like, okay, I could see it as a fan at that point. I wasn't thinking like this because it was my senior year of high school and I was just having a good time. So I just thought this album just fit right into that good time I was having. But the thing was that, there were some songs on there like Two-Time Woman, which I personally, I love that song. I
Yes.
love the music behind that one. But I could see why fans looked at this album and went, "What happened to the band? This doesn't." Because I remember my brother and my buddy, who was also a big Stryper fan, they looked at each other and they said, "Yeah, it was kind of different and interesting when that album came out." And then again, for you young folks back in the day, we didn't have the internet to look and see what was going on with the band. I mean, we didn't have any of that.
God, stop the Southern accent.
I know, I'm just kidding. But we didn't have we didn't know. So it was just like all of a sudden Stryper came out with his new album. And I remember I went to the album store and I looked at the cover. And I was like, that's a different looking cover, you
It
know?
was. Yep.
And I can't remember if I had heard Shining Star on MTV yet or not. So I don't remember which one I heard first. I just knew that the new album was out. And I remember listening to it and I was like, I was thinking in the back of my head, when are they gonna mention God? When are they gonna mention God? When are they gonna mention God? And you get to the last song and it's rocked the hell out of you, and you're like, okay, they never mentioned God on this album, even though I saw the faith elements coming through. But I could see why people had a problem with this album.
No, of course. Well, I mean, they did kind of freaking make a little bit of a turn. I mean, you can't, because we're used to the yellow and black. We're used to the like overt lyrics. Of course, we're gonna get the guitar solos and whatnot, but I mean, it it did take a turn, and some of the fans were like, and myself included. I I wasn't sure how to react to this record. So, but I'm sitting here looking at some of Michael Sweet interviews, and it's like he explained the band during this. He's like, people thought we walked away from God. That couldn't be further from the truth. Didn't lose faith, but wanted to express it differently. We lost a lot of fans because of that album, and I I don't
And
know
it
if
was just go ahead.
I don't know if it was the label. I'm not sure why this record actually came out. I mean, the more I think about it, it's like, why would you guys do this? Were you like capitulating to the the current scene of the music industry? Was it the label? And it's just, I don't know. This record never made any sense to me.
Yeah, I think, well, I think it goes back to some of the interviews that I've read and reading through some books and stuff like that, where it really boiled down to the what he says, when he says, you go back to the first song, let me get my thoughts here. You go back to the first song on the album, you know, we're still rocking, when it kind of slows down on Against the Law, that song, and when it starts talking about we're still rocking harder, we're just rocking harder to make our music flow. Still, you point your finger, you think you know it all. Just want you to remember, we don't stand for you because we're against your law. I think that this album is summed up in that lyric right there.
Yeah,
And to
that's
show that they can be,
the point.
which we already knew that they could be an incredible rock band. And I think that they didn't lose their faith, they just weren't walking as, I mean, because you have those dips and valleys in your faith, and this was a time when the entire band, I mean, you read about it, and they're rehearsing and they're doing things, and it becomes, hey, let's have a beer, let's have a 6-pack, let's have a 12-pack, let's have a case. I mean, and those types of things were going on. And one of the things I did read though, and I thought this was very interesting because I still have the original CD that I bought with Against the Law. And they did not. One of the things that the record label pushed was to change your logo. And they fought back and did not want to change the logo, meaning the guys in the band. They wanted to still the same one that we were accustomed to off of Yellow and Black up to In
Yellow.
God We Trust. But the record company ultimately won, and I'm trying to remember how many copies it was, but I think it was like 10,000 copies. But there were like 10,000 copies where the CD, when you open it up, and I mentioned this on when we talked about this album, the disc itself had the original Stryper logo on it, and that was really the only thing Yellow and Black associated with that album, because they were more black and blue. They looked more like rockers. Tim Gaines, I think Oz Fox, they had the beards, so the entire band at that time looked different. Like you said, they lost fans. And then after that, I felt like, they came with the greatest hits a year later. At that point, they were on Hollywood Records, I think, because Enigma had gone bankrupt. They put a couple of new songs on there. Michael Sweet was already kind of being pulled, like, I'm not feeling this anymore, those tugs to leave the band. But the music scene was changing. So it just ended up being just in the world of itself. You had them make that album. and they never really had the opportunity come back to where they could have come back and done something different because the music scene changed. Michael left the band and grunge had taken over. I mean, grunge started coming out in 90, 91. So when they came out with Can't Stop the Rock, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, they were on their way to being what was on MTV. And everybody else was not just Stryper, but all the other bands from the 80s that were rock bands had just not lost their way, but just they weren't being played anymore. It was just like they just had a quick, swift death in the music world.
Well, it wasn't just them. I
Yeah,
mean, it was freaking everybody, but,
it was everybody.
I mean, they but it seems like we're talking about controversies. It just seems like every time it's just like, s so let me so they reunited, right? And the criticisms just came back like
Yeah. This sounds like a Michael Sweet solo album.
like they never left. And this was in the 2000s, and I'm just like, well, the hair metal's dead. So so the things that they're cashing in on nostalgia. They're not as bold as before, and I'm just like, I don't know. There's things that some of these things that make me angry, but I mean, it's just a bunch of double standards, to to be honest. And so when they got through the freaking not hair metal, sorry, the grunge metal stuff, I was like, okay, well, they're still here and they're still making stuff. So, and I'm not gonna curse, but
Well, you talk about the controversy stuff. I mean, Michael Sweet posted this just excuse me, just posted this a few days ago. An explanation. And I don't know if you saw this, but it kind of fits into the controversy is always there. The solo album 10 and even the album prior to that entitled One Sided War to some degree was purposely meant to be a heavy guitar driven album similar to Stryper. Why? Because over the years, quite a few people have said his solo stuff doesn't compare to Stryper. The heavy from Stryper doesn't come from Michael, it comes from the other guys. Michael isn't heavy, he's light. On and on and on and on. Well, the album 10 was an oh yeah, let me show you moment. A chance to prove those comments and theories wrong. I love heavy as much as I love lightening it up a bit. As you can see and hear the difference between 10 and the master plan. I grew up and loved Judas Priest and Maiden every bit as much as Journey and Survivor. I've always loved chugging and cranking up those boogies Marshalls as much as I love piano, acoustic guitar, strings, keys, and bringing the gain volume down a little. That's what makes me me. Anyway, I just wanted to explain this a little to those who may be wondering. Question is, what will the next Stryper album be? So even now, it's like
it no, it's well, no, it's kind of ridiculous because I mean, so and maybe I can break this down a little bit, but I've always been a technical, like if I'm listening to a song, I'm listening to it musically and probably not so much lyrically. That's what I have my wife for. She'll listen to it lyrically. But I mean, these guys have been doing this crap for as long as we've been alive. For somebody to I know they have the critics where, we're too rock for the Christians and we're too light for, the I don't give it
yeah, because I
anymore.
mean, every band is not every. You could be the biggest band in the world, and not everybody is still going to like you. I mean,
Absolutely.
you may not be everybody's flavor of music style,
Yeah,
and
and that's the thing, and that's fine. I mean, everybody doesn't have to like Steve Vai or Whitesnake or Rat or I don't give a I'm just saying it's like sometimes when I see the people criticizing Mike or the band, I'm just like, okay, well, it kind of it it tells me one or two things. it's like either you haven't listened to them or you're just being a I'm sorry. You're just going on w what the
The mainstream media has told you about Stryper.
thank you.
I was just it's like my question when somebody says they don't like Stryper. My question to them is
Why?
why? Why don't you like them? Not out of a defense mechanism, but I want to hear, is it because like my
Well,
wife might
it becomes a debate. It's like, "Dude, okay, cool. You don't like Stryper." And I'm not trying to bring politics into this. I feel like it's, a Charlie Kirk thing. Change my mind. It's like, why don't you like Stryper?"
yeah, and I mean, and then there are people like my wife, the heavy stuff is not her cup of tea. And so when we first met and she found out I really liked them, she really liked the first Michael Sweet solo album because that was more her cup of tea. It was more rock than it was the heavy stuff, which is what she never really leaned towards. And so she just said, "Well, I never really liked them because, of the heavy stuff that they did." And that would be more like more Than a Man, The Way, those types of songs. And I can respect that because, like I just said earlier to you, I don't like hip hop that much.
No,
There
it's
might be a
cool. I
couple
mean,
of songs. It's just whoever's flavor. But if it's just that same, why don't you like them? Well, they suck. Well, why do you think
no,
they suck?
you
Tell
can't
me
tell me
why.
that yeah, you can't tell me they suck without telling me why.
Yeah. So it becomes that kind of conversation. And that's what I want to draw out of people to see. Have you ever Have you ever really listened to them? Because
Maybe we should do a maybe
even
we
on the
should do a
Christian
college tour.
yeah. We'll
Change
start at
change my
UGA, that's
mind.
only an hour away, and we can just be playing we can just you know what I would love to do? They have those, like, things that you can do now, technology where you can, just hear the voice or you can just pull in the music. We should just pull down the lyrics of some of their songs and just say, "Do you like this?" Man, that's awesome. Like some of their stuff that would be known. Well, guess what? This is this band that you hated but that's just a story for another day.
That's a great idea. We should talk about that offline because I love the idea.
But it boils down though to it's the same side though as Christians who sit there and say they don't like the band because they don't talk about Jesus or the blood of Jesus. Who did you hear that from? And what lyrics have you been listening to? Yeah, the songs on MTV didn't specifically say Jesus. They didn't say God, but guess what? On the very first song that became pretty popular on MTV, their logo was on the stage with Isaiah 53:5 on it. And you know what that reminds me of? Every stadium you go to that has John 3:16. How many people saw that logo and went and looked up Isaiah 53:5?
Yeah, I mean, but that you say that, so I mean, but so what was that? 1986.
6.
So I mean, yeah, it was on the floor and all that kind of stuff, and they were rocking and they were huge, but there were still just like a lot of people that were just like, but it was a definitely a defining moment where it's like, especially when Calling on You came out, it was like, dude, it was everywhere
Yeah.
too, and
It just I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. It's like people start thinking for yourselves because a lot of the times when you are you're regurgitating something, you know, like they didn't talk about Jesus or they suck. You're just regurgitating what somebody else has said with no reason behind it.
you haven't done any homework.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not bringing me the receipts to show me why you think this band is the way they are
right. No, yeah, I anytime
or why you think that.
no, anytime I have a disagreement, I mean, even if it's just a little bit, I'm like, "Man, you gotta bring me receipts to tell me why I'm wrong." So, I love having those conversations.
And yes, you can have a conversation with people. It doesn't have to be end up being a bloody mess.
No, it's not an argument.
I know. Some people don't know how to have conversations anymore. They wanna
Well, it's because 'cause we're spending all our freaking time on social media, but no. Yeah, I mean,
unless you go to the Masters, you can't be on it out there,
I mean, I
and I love
yes.
it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's yeah, it's well, I like talking to people that I met 3 or 4 people this weekend, and so it's like I like meeting people that I don't know, and I don't have to freaking meet them on social media. So I I like having intelligent conversations, and
Yeah, I mean,
I don't feel like we have enough of those.
because I mean, you know when you go to the Masters, you can put your chairs down. If you haven't been to the Masters, this is one of the great things about the Masters. You can put your chairs down and leave them, and other people may come up and sit in them, but there nobody's going to take your chairs because this is just like the most etiquette, respectful behavior at a sporting event I have ever seen before.
No,
And
it's southern hospitality at its finest.
and you can set your chairs down. So usually a lot of times when I plant myself, there's usually people on the left, people on the right, and some people, if the chairs are empty, people will come sit down in the chair. It may not be their chairs. And then if the person who owns the chair, they'll come up and say, "Hey, that's my chair." And they'll go, "Oh, okay." And they'll get up and leave. But like you said, it gives you the opportunity. I met these guys. One was from Cincinnati, one was from Austin. They were about our age, and it was the first time they had been there, and
Awesome.
they came in for Saturday and Sunday, and they were loving it, and they were all over the place, and they were just telling me all about it. Then they were the ones who owned the chairs, but then another group came in, and they were from Canada, and it's amazing. And oh my gosh, man, this was crazy too. I mean, you can meet all kinds of people if you get your stinking head out of your phone.
No, I mean, totally. The people that we hung out with, this weekend, they were from Boston, and I'm not gonna lie, I have a stereotype of somebody from Boston, but we had a really good time. You know, we got a little Airbnb, like, down from the course, and, yeah, so they were they were really sweet and, just and it kinda the accent was funky because he put a R on the end of pizza, but Pete I don't even freaking know how he
Pete's
said it.
R. Pete's R.
Something like that. I don't freaking know.
That's
But
funny.
yeah, it was funny because I have my stereotypical, thing of Boston people, but they were just super sweet and we had a great time. But yeah, it's a I mean, people come down and maybe they'll miss your stereotypes, I guess. So even though they have the accent.
It was just cool, and that's the thing that we really miss today is just being able. I mean, we got on this subject because of the conversations that we were able to have without phones, but we've lost the art of being able to have a conversation with people.
Dude, I freaking love I mean, so example. So this guy was my wife's boss and his father-in-law. And so we were in the house and no phones, no nothing, whatever. And we just talked and talked and talked. And it was like, yeah, I still know how to have a conversation. And that I think it's a missing art. But we talked to like God, 12:30 probably about music and a little politics. I mean, not too much. But yeah, I mean, the art of conversation it's going away.
Yeah, unfortunately. I
Yeah,
mean,
totally.
we tried to implement this once before, and it went sideways. We had this little thing. It was this little box, and it had our name on it, and it was like when we sit down for dinner, all the phones are going in here. Well, you would have thought, I'm not going to name names, you would have thought I was taking somebody's left arm away, asking them to put the phone in the box
Wait, is this at your work or a house?
at my house.
My word.
And, you and I know this because we're the age we are. Like yesterday, I had some text messages that came through on my phone when I turned it back on when I got in my car. And you know what? Lori, I mean, my wife took care of it and she was handling the situation. And I called her and she said, "This is what's going on." And she brought me up to speed and that was cool. But now it's like, it just drives me nuts when I see somebody's text message go off and they're like, and you're in the middle of a conversation with them and they go, and it's like, "What are you doing?" "Well, I just got this text." Well, what's more important, that text message or the person you're in front of?
No, dude, it's
Well, they wanted to know what I had for lunch today, and I had to tell them what I had for lunch today because if I don't tell them what I had for lunch today, they're going to think I didn't respond to them. And so I'm like, man, I'm so off subject right now.
that's absolutely hilarious. No, dude, I mean, for real, and this is for everybody. I mean, my wife and I, it's like it's one of the only days of the year where we don't have our phones for 8 or 10 hours, and so we're forced to look each other in the eyes and have a freaking great time at one of the greatest sporting events ever. And we are so fortunate to be able to do that. And I hate, you know, bragging on this, recording, but it's one of the coolest days of the year.
Yeah, I know. And that was the thing I enjoyed, but it's just like, how do we get on this?
I have no idea.
We were talking about receipts and we started talking about having a conversation. And that's the thing. We got to be able to have a conversation. And you and I both agree. You just can't come up and tell us that this band is terrible. You can't come up and tell us that and not
That was,
bring your
yeah,
reasons why.
yeah. Tell me why they suck.
Yeah. Or if you say, and if you just say, "Yeah, I just don't like the band." Well, why don't you like them? Well, kind of going back to my wife, I just don't particularly like the hard stuff, or I don't like this, or I am more into classical music, or and yeah, we all have our taste in music,
Yeah,
and
everybody's
it's
got
it
their flavor. I mean,
and it's totally fine, but because there's so much controversy with this band, people just sometimes pick the side of not liking them based upon what they've heard, and they're just regurgitating what they heard, and they have no idea that what they're speaking is most of the time false.
that's really funny because I'm not going to do this, but that's a that reminds me of politics.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but I mean, yeah, like you say, it's like, okay, Stryper sucks, but you got to bring me some receipts, man. I mean, if you don't, I think I'm not going to say that either. But yeah, if you say Stryper sucks, you got to bring me some receipts, and we have to have a conversation about it. So, I mean, hell, whatever. It is what it is, and people have their opinions. And all right, cool.
Yeah, but
I
it's
mean, if you're telling me that Britney Fox is the greatest band in the world, I'm going to disagree with you. So bring me some receipts that tells me why I should think about Britney Fox being the
be
best
the best
band.
band in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Because that's how I would be. I would be like,
Bring the receipts.
really? I would say, why do you think that?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
question.
I love
Ted Lasso,
conversations.
be curious, ask
No,
questions.
no, I love conversations like that. So yeah,
And so we started talking about coming
it was
back with 2005 controversy started then with, well, the new Stryper album sounds like a Michael Sweet solo album, and then they added a little bit more elements, and then there's still been controversy that has surrounded this band. I mean, you had the goddamn Evil album.
it never
Walmart pulled it.
no, it never stopped. I mean, it has never stopped, and it's I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, and you're talking about the Walmart thing. I mean, it's just like even with with Mike and even with the band, it's just like, man, it just never stopped. It's actually amazing that they can.
I will tell you this though. I will tell you this. I love the Striper fans though. And the reason I love the Striper fans is because I will personally, just because of all this controversy and all the things that I've heard about this band over the years, and with people not liking them and both sides of the aisle not liking them, there's something on Facebook that comes up and it'll say, Stryper album versus this album, or Stryper song versus this song. Which one's better? And my mind, unfortunately, sometimes goes to, well, of course, somebody's going to pick this song because, of how people have always felt about this band. But these fans show up. It amazes me how many times that they win a poll or they're at the top of a poll because the Stryper fans will just go on there and just so with all the controversy that happens around this band, the people that love this band, I mean, they love this band, which is just awesome.
Yeah, no, yeah, the fan base is they're locked in. There's I mean, the fact that, you know, there's really not been like a garbage record or something like that that the fan base can be like, "Well, this sucks." Is I mean, it might
There
not
might be
be
one you like less than the other ones.
right. Yeah, that's my point. It's like, okay, well, they made a new record. Okay, cool. It's really good. I mean, it might not be my favorite, but it's still really good. And yeah, the fan base is amazing. And I heard, gosh, who was it? If you have 1,000 fans that will support you no matter what you do, then you can have a career. And I know Stryper's fan base is way bigger than 1,000, but um, yeah, it was just I always can see that the fan base is always there and always always going to support them. So yeah, I mean, as you and I do. So yeah,
Oh, here's something hot off the press.
okay,
Was going as you were saying something, I was going to look something up and it pulled up. Michael Sweet just posted this 20 minutes ago. It says, whether you've never met Stryper or met them 20 times, this is a great year to enjoy the meet and greet experience. We've added new aspects, including access to part of a sound check. Get your meet and greet passes at striper.com. Then, of course, a meet and greet ticket does not include a ticket to the show. You still need to purchase a separate ticket for the show. So, meet and greets are now available for 2026. So, and then it goes on. What does it say here? Some of the things that are on this little post. Individual photo with the band. Okay, cool.
that'd be cool.
Soundcheck access, exclusive gift item, commemorative VIP laminate, autographed 8 by 10 on-site VIP host, front of line entry, hassle-free merch shopping. So those are 8 things that are that he just posted, but that's just new. That's not what I was going to go say or go look at. What I wanted to look at, like you said, 1,000 fans. I mean, Stryper on Facebook has 378,000 followers.
Well, it was a comedian. I think it was Dean Del Rey. I'm not sure, but his his thing was like, if you have 1,000 fans that will buy whatever your latest thing is, then you can have a career. So, but we're talking about a band that's been around for freaking 40 years. So,
40 years.
yeah. So, I mean, anyway,
Because how many, like when we go to center stage, the last time we went there a couple of years ago, how many people do you think were in there?
it's center stage, 5 or 600. Yeah. It's a
And that's
smaller
just
spot.
one night.
Yeah. That's just one night. So, yeah, that's a smaller spot. The club down the road, tackles 1,000, 1,100.
Yeah. So I mean,
So,
so I just when I it's just great when you meet somebody that's a Stryper fan because most of the time, I mean, because of the controversy, you when you meet someone that is a Stryper fan, it's like this automatic kinship that you have with them,
no, totally, totally. Yeah, I mean, because
like you're my long lost best friend, you know.
well, I mean, I have like, 5 or 6 Striper shirts, and, if I'm wearing them out about town and everything, and it's just like, I I have had a couple of conversations with people. It's like, "Oh my god, you're a Striper fan." "Yep." And that's weird sometimes. So, but yeah, I mean, we are our little bubble of fans.
Speaking of t-shirts, um, I actually bought this t-shirt
That
before.
looks cool, dude. I meant to ask you about that.
This one there so you can see it. It's the When We Were Kings shirt.
Okay.
And I bought this one at the concert when we went a couple of years ago. But I have learned at concerts, I need to buy a size up than what I normally buy. And so I finally this one, and then I have the other one I bought at the concert as well. They went on sale on at the Stryper merch desk, so they're on sale right now. So if they're still available, I went ahead and ordered them because I was like, well, hadn't been able to wear those two, you know. Um, so I always have to buy a size larger when it comes to concert
Yeah,
t-shirts.
concert shirts are weird.
Yeah,
So yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool.
I mean, a large should mean a large, no matter what brand it is, you know.
Yeah, well, but I mean, they're trying they're trying to produce those shirts as cheap as possible.
I know they are. What else did you have on the controversy side? I know you said you had some notes down.
Well, I was looking at a couple things and most of not so much on the Michael Sweet side, but I started looking on the band as a whole and I mean, it was kind of heartbreaking a little bit because I was looking at how they were feeling as far as like the image. Yeah, here's a good one: image versus faith. And I feel like a lot of the guys were like, it felt like they were defeated a little bit. So one of the quotes was like, "God doesn't give a about yellow and black stripes." I mean, there's quotes from Mike's like we're under the microscope 24/7 and the Christian music industry, there's more politics in Christian music than people realize, which you and I both know. But then some of the
Well,
stuff
it's just the
go
with
ahead.
just what you're saying, just with there is a unfair expectation that people put on others. And I'm not talking about an expectation of, you know, running around and having multiple affairs, you know, I mean, those kind of things. I'm not talking about that, but just like, oh my gosh, I just saw that Christian musician. They were out and they were having a beer. I mean, it
Right.
just blows my mind. Just the expectations that people put because of their own. My wife and I were talking about this the other day, and it's just like, it's almost like when Jesus was walking the earth and the Pharisees and the Sadducees kept putting these expectations on Jesus that were man made versus what God was really calling him to do. And that's what people have done in a sense with this band as well. They have put their man made expectations on this band and they expect them to, you know, live a certain lifestyle. And oh my gosh, you know, I saw him out and he was having a whiskey. He's not a Christian anymore. And I'm just like, where do you get from?
Well, this is something I pulled from Metal I'm sorry, Blabbermouth. The headline was "Not Metal Enough. Problem was brutal." So this is about Stryper. So bands like Slayer and Metallica were pushing heavier, darker themes. Glam like Poison was sex and excess. Stryper fit nowhere. And so real criticisms, they're a gimmick. They're not dangerous enough. Metal shouldn't be religious. And then the last points were metal has always been about religion, authority, and freedom. Stryper came in saying, submit to something higher. They blah, blah, blah. Sorry. That's almost the opposite philosophy and it rubbed people hard. So that was one of my favorite kind of just bullet points because they couldn't really freaking win. I mean, it especially during that time period, it was just, you know, okay, they're religious, so they can't be metal. And they can't be metal because they're
It just goes back to
it really does.
the aspects of what the Christian world expected and what the non-Christian world expected. And it just it was unfair. I mean, it's been unfair.
It's still unfair.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's weird that it's, there I mean, how many records did they sell? So
Well, both The Hell with the Devil went multi-platinum,
yeah, I think it was double
and
platinum.
God We Trust went double, I think. It took a little bit longer, but I think eventually it did. If I'm incorrect, somebody please let me know, but I think I did read recently that that one actually did go double as well.
Yeah, yeah, and then some of the stuff is oh god, the real reason the controversy never died. Church brought metal into clubs, metal brought into religious spaces, and both met with suspicion and skepticism. I'm just like, "Okay, I think there's just a lot of dumb people in the world."
But you know what? You know what makes me I think this is the whole thing when we hear things like this.
Come
What
on.
did people feel that way because they weren't doing it the way other Christian rock acts were doing it at the time? Because I never heard the controversy around a band like White Cross, and I'm not picking on these bands, so please don't think I'm doing that. But I never heard the controversy that I did with bands like White Cross. As a matter of fact, Teen Mania hooked up with White Cross back in the early 90s, you know? So you had these other Christian rock bands, the whole, hey, if you're listening to Rat, you should listen to them. That fell into that category, and they were being promoted, and it was like, were they doing that because was it okay because they were following the normal Christian steps of, I'm going to be on a Christian label and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, where Stryper already had the record deal with Enigma, and then they changed the lyrics when they gave their hearts to God, and they weren't in the Christian record label scene. Why weren't the other bands attacked that were also rock acts at the same time?
That's a great point. In my in my opinion, I think that Stryper as a band were one of the ones that were you had a lot of crappy bands in the '80s, right? I mean, that really didn't know how to play their instruments that great, and I feel like Stryper was one of the ones that I mean, and we talked about
Good.
this before. They they knew how to play their instruments, but, you know, their lyrics were different, and they had the harmonies, they had all the pieces together, but they were talking about God, but they had all the other pieces. So, it was hard to deny them in my opinion. So, I mean, yeah, go ahead and talk about God, but okay, we still know how to play the crap out of our instruments, and our harmonies are amazing. So, I think it's it's funky because there were like a lot of other bands, like you talk about White Cross or whatever, but they just weren't as good. And then we sit here and we shill for, we shill for Stryper, and we're really not. Nobody's paying us to do this crap. So, but in my opinion, I just think technically they just if we're gonna get into that Christian metal space, which I hate using that term, but they were the best. They were the first, and they were the best.
Yeah, I would agree. They were the first and they were the best. And I mean, I did listen to and I like the other bands, that were the
Yeah,
80s
sure.
Christian rock bands back then. I'll admit, I don't probably outside of Stryper
Petra.
I'll listen to some Petra still today. Not everything, but some. I'll still listen to Jamie Rowe of Guardian. I'll listen to the Guardian stuff. I'll listen to his new stuff. And there's not a whole lot, though, from that era of Christian, like you said, in air quotes, Christian rock music that I still listen to today.
I listened to a little. There are some Petra songs that I still like because I
Yeah,
love the
same here.
I love the Mark Voltz, he has a great
Greg
voice.
Voltz.
Yeah, sorry, Greg Vol yeah, he has a amazing voice. But yeah, I mean, yeah, during that era of the '80s Christian rock stuff, I mean, it was okay, but it yeah, it never hit me in it never hit me in the heart, so there's Stryper songs that hit me in the heart, so and that's what I want. So, yeah, I mean,
I mean, you talk about Greg X Voltz. Do you realize at one point he was asked to be the lead singer of REO Speedwagon?
I did yes, I did know that. And you know what? That yeah, I could see that. He has a hell of a voice.
Yeah, he does. He does. And I mean, he turned down the offer to pursue the career in Christian music. And I think that was before he became the lead vocalist for Petra. So this was like early days REO Speedwagon
This would
when
be
he
like
was,
probably like
this would have been in the
70s.
70s that
Right.
he was asked that. So his voice is incredible. I mean, he's got one of those 4 octave voice. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's ridiculous.
and I mean, I always like, I mean, John Schlitt, I mean, to me, it was funny. Somebody asked me this once, and I thought of an answer afterwards because I was kind of put on the spot. But somebody said, "So, Petra wise, are you Greg X Volts or are you John Schlitt?" And my response should have been, that's like asking a diehard Van Halen fan if you're David Lee Roth or Sammy
Sammy
Hagar.
Hagar.
And they both, to me, both of them, they are kind of like the band. I'm not comparing them to Van Halen, but they were the band who had an identity with Greg X Volts, and then they brought in somebody, and they even went to bigger heights with John Schlitt than they did with Greg X Volts, and that doesn't happen that often when you replace a lead singer.
Unless you're Sammy Hagar, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I know I know with
Boy,
Van I know with Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, you had 4 number 1 albums. You never had a number 1 album with David Lee Roth. And I've said this before,
but the albums are better.
but 1984, if it hadn't been for Michael Jackson Thriller, would have been a number 1 album because they got stuck at number 2 for 3 weeks behind Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yes, they
And
did.
then look at how many albums Van Halen 1 has sold compared to the other albums that Sammy Hagar sold, because that one sold, what do you call it when you sell 10 million plus? Diamond?
Diamond. Yeah.
Yeah. So that album is Diamond, and the
Yeah, but it came out in '79,
it
so
came out in 79, but the Sammy Hagar ones haven't achieved that I'm aware of.
no, there's no diamonds with Sammy yet, but but they did have more number 1 records with Sammy.
Yeah.
So, I don't
Yeah.
give a crap. I'm a Roth. I stand with Roth. I know he's, like, got he sounds like crap now and whatever, but my favorite Van Halen records are David Lee Roth records.
Yeah. Well,
And I know you have a different opinion, but that's cool.
mine's going to be 5150.
And I love 5150.
You know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do? I should have
Alright.
done it this year, but I'm gonna do it. I don't know if I wanna do it every year, but maybe every 5 years, but maybe every year because none of us are getting any younger. But I wanna pull out that Live Without a Net Blu-ray DVD that I have, and on the release date of 5150, I wanna have a listening party, and I wanna watch that.
That sounds awesome. I would love that.
We
'Cause
can
yeah, that sounds amazing. That's a great idea.
we can hook it up to my surround sound, kick my wife out of the house because, she won't wanna listen to it.
No,
Order pizza, wings,
that sounds
and
like a great yeah, I'll put a freaking plate of freaking chicken wings down here and yeah. Well, I mean, hell, I just watched that thing, like, not that long ago, so, yeah, it's just
I just
It's just
The thing
fun.
I love, I sent you the Summer Nights video a couple of
Yeah, yeah, you did.
earlier this or last week, and I just love it when he gets into that guitar part again, and Alex is in the background doing the tambourine, and then all of a sudden Sammy's pumping his arm in the air, and the drums are just doosh, doosh, you know, in the background. That has to be one of the favorite things musically that I just enjoy listening to. Just that song live.
Yeah, well, now that they're, like, a little bit older, it's funky because Michael Anthony is carrying a lot of that stuff. I mean, especially vocally, and so when I watch, like, you know, some of the shows that they're doing, um, he I mean, he's very underrated bass player, obviously, but some of the vocals that he's doing is it's like, "Bro, how old are you?" And so, yeah, and then Sammy's over there doing his thing at 70, what, 8 or whatever.
Yeah, he's I know he's older than my dad.
No, I would love to do, listening party with, yeah, that would be really cool because yeah, because God, we were in high school when that whole thing
Yeah.
happened.
I
So
was I'll tell you what I was. When that album came out, I was in 7th grade,
so that was
1986.
1986, so I was 15. Alright,
Man,
so
you think about all the incredible albums that were coming out at that time.
dude, Doctor nope, not Doctor Feelgood. Uh,
Yeah, Feel
Theater
Good came out in '89.
yeah, no, oh, dang it, what was the one
Theater of
Theater of
Pain came
Pain.
out in
Yeah,
'85.
yeah, I'm thinking about Theater of Pain, but, yeah, I mean, there was so much good stuff coming out then, but, yeah, I mean but that was that was an insane change. It's like and Live Without a Net kinda documented that whole thing. It's like because they had that stupid kid in high school. It's like, "Oh, they're coming out with quality stuff," and I'm just dude and he's got this stupid short haircut and just I didn't like that part, but I was glad that he was, "Alright, cool," "They got a new singer and they're singing about positive stuff and blah, 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 and whatever," but I don't know. You are but you are leaving the David Lee Roth era, so there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, it was a definite shift for the band, and I've come to appreciate both sides of the band,
Yeah, me too.
even Gary Sharone's.
I think also too, as I'm listening, and God, I didn't mean for us to get off on a Van Halen rant,
Well,
but
we could
well,
talk about Van Halen all as much as we talk
I
about
mean that's
Stryper, though.
well, that's yeah, well, it's totally fine, but the the Sammy era, the guitar tone change, and that was something that my ear got into. And I was like, well, this is a different sound for Eddie. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just weird. Couple of those records, like they had a definite departure from the older Van Halen records.
Yeah, because your favorite one is, me the one with Mean Streets.
Fair
Women
warning.
no, Fair Warning. I wanted to say Women, Children First. I knew that one
Yeah,
right.
fair warning.
Fair Warning.
I love all those early records. I mean, because Eddie was just God, he was out of his mind. So, but yeah, I mean, Fair Warning is my favorite Van Halen record. And Mean Streets, yeah, Mean Streets is one of my favorite songs.
I think from the DLR, excuse me, side of the world, my favorite one by them is the first one, just Van Halen. And then, of course, Sammy Hagar, I just said it, 5150. And then my favorite one with Gary Sharon is Van Halen 3.
Well, that would be your only choice.
I know. That's why I said that.
No, I mean, I love 5150. It's one of my favorite records, but yeah. Get Up is one of my favorite songs on that record, so yeah, I can definitely get behind that. So,
So, do we have anything else we need to wrap up the controversy episode with? We talked about the controversy and then got sidetracked on a couple of things, but didn't know if you had anything else specifically that you had note wise.
I feel like if we're talking about controversy, I feel like they just were like under a lot of pressure, and it was just like, if you're dealing with the fate, because they are dealing with 2 different things. It's like, it's a musical balance and a spiritual balance. So they were trying to manage all that stuff at the same time, and I mean, I can close it out with this. I mean, I feel like for this group, because they do have to balance a couple things. I mean, it's musically, obviously, they have to balance that, but they also have to balance the spiritual component, and a lot of people, well, who has to do that besides them? Not a lot of bands have to manage that stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, which is why I give them a lot of respect, because it's more stuff to, like I said, to keep in line. And most most bands at this point in time, we're just like, we're just gonna go do drugs and, screw around and do whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that they've really never, well, not never, we already say this, but it's cool that they haven't really gone off the rails, because it would have been really easy for them to do.
Oh, yeah. They had every reason that they could have done it, but they stayed committed to their faith.
Yeah.
Um, I know they had a little we all know that as a fan of Stryper, we all know they had that period of against the law, but the way that we've seen them throughout the majority of their 40-year career, 40-plus-year career, they have stayed committed to their faith. They've stayed committed to what they're doing, and which has been awesome. And I hate to say this right now, but the wonderful internet that I'm dealing with in this room is starting to give me a little bit of problems. So we might need to
Well, let's bounce it
wrap
out
it
then.
up here in just a minute.
Hey, let's bounce it out then.
So, but no, I've enjoyed talking about this because it's, it's our favorite band. I mean, because you think about a lot of the other bands that we like, what controversy surrounds them? You
Right.
know, what controversy surrounds them? And we
Tons.
have this one, and then we have this one, and it's like, you think about a band like Van Halen. Yes, there's controversy, but there's not this type of controversy where you have it coming from both sides of the aisle. Hard. No, I'm not just talking like, Van Halen sucks or something. I mean, it's just like this adamant,
That sucked.
it's
Okay.
like this adamant passion on both sides that bring the controversy with the band. And it
Well,
stinks
I
that
mean,
it
well, when you think about it, though, I mean, it's, like we were talking earlier, it's like they are bringing it from both sides of the aisle, and because there's such a polarizing band who actually play their instruments, who actually has a really good songwriter and really good harmonies. I mean, all the things that a really good rock band would have, but hey, we're singing about God. And I don't think there's anybody better, but that's just my opinion.
because I mean, but it's just great. I mean, when you hear stuff like this, I mean, it's just you have um like I just looked this up. I wasn't planning on saying this. It just popped into my head. But with them having the faith that they do, when you have like First Peter 3:14, I just looked up some verses, that just fit right into what, Stryper deals with. But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Don't fear their threats. Do not be threatened. Jesus promises peace despite trials. He says in John 16, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. I mean, that's Galatians 6:9. And that one's pretty cool. Let us not become weary in doing good. And you look at the history of this band, they haven't become weary in doing good and at the proper, and then if they have not given up, and think of all the people that one day, because of them standing firm, being able to say, I'm here because of what you did.
Wow. That's good stuff, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing that we've talked about this before. I mean, I don't know how many people have come to faith because of this band, and so it's like, and every time they've never wavered, and it's like it's funky because we grew up in the '80s, and all the sex, drugs, rock and roll BS, but this band has never wavered from what their message was. So I'm just like, I I have so much respect for whatever they do and whatever they're gonna do, and I don't know. I mean, and it sounds like we're just freaking shills for Stryper, but I
And
don't
again,
know.
we don't get paid for this.
Yeah, no, well, no kidding. But yeah, it's just like I don't know. I mean, it's it's one of the few bands that has some substance. If you look at '80s metal, I mean, and they do still, blah, sorry, still sound like he's metal, but the stuff that they're putting out and the lyrics that they're putting out is still very substantial. And man, I don't know.
I feel like it's an '80s feel with a modern it's an '80s vibe with a modern, feel to it.
Yeah, there's a modern twist to it. That's a good point. But yeah, I mean, if I want to introduce well, heck, I'm not gonna have my kids are almost 20 and 25. But if I was gonna introduce somebody to some 80, because everything's retro, so I could turn them on to Striper, and that I wouldn't have a problem with that. But yeah, it's just it, well, it sounds cool, and it sounds like '80s metal, and then we can get into the lyrics thing later. But yeah, I mean, we're biased, so
We are. But with that being said, episode 31 is a wrap. This is To Hell with the Podcast. And again, we appreciate you listening, and we have a good time doing this, and we will be back next week for episode 32. But until then, if you like what you're hearing, don't forget to subscribe. Give us some feedback. We'd love to hear it. And thank you for listening. Love you guys. And we will see you next week.
love you guys.